Husband's been secretly taking lessons to start a new life in another country with a woman he's been seeing, and I know how that sounds, like the twist at the end of a glossy streaming drama. But it started on a Tuesday when the kitchen smelled like coffee and burnt toast, and I'm Myra, 33, an immigration paralegal who spends my days turning other people's second chances into tidy packets with tabs. And the cosmic joke is that I missed the tabs in my own house until my printer coughed up a clue with the same breezy confidence as a boarding pass. I wasn't snooping. I was printing my client's proof of income for a residency renewal, because the embassy wants a very specific font of certainty. Our black and white laser is a soldier. It prints and prints until the cartridge is a rumor. When the tray spit out a page that wasn't mine, enrollment confirmation, A2 Portuguese evening course, I thought it was a glitch, like the ghost of a file from the last tenant haunting our hardware. But the header had today's date. The name on it was my husband's. A2, not beginner, not tourist phrases. The kind of level you take when you plan to sign a lease and complain properly about utilities. The paper had an address, a language school I know because I've recommended it to clients. For blocks from a metro stop I love for its tiles. There was a second page, my printer is thorough, that listed payment plan details. I could feel my heartbeat do that steady, slow thump it does at work before I tell a client we need a police certificate and they tell me a story I'm not paid enough to hold. I put both pages on the counter as if the laminate might offer counsel, and I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen and looked at the shape of my everyday life with a stranger's eyes. Coffee cup. Keys in the dish. The plant he swore he would water, thriving out of spite. I wanted to be the kind of person who confronted immediately, whose mouth is a clean blade. Instead, I texted my older sister because I am a person who believes in witnesses. Bring your eyebrows, I wrote. Sharp pear. She replied, on my way with cardamom buns and the face. In our family, the face is an heirloom. Our grandmother used it on bureaucrats and mango sellers. It turns nonsense into receipts. While I waited, I did what I do for other people's emergencies. I made a list on a yellow legal pad. What I know. What I think. What I need. Under no, I wrote, evening Portuguese, paid in installments starting last month, his name spelled correctly, an ID number he never uses unless forms are real. Under think, Portugal is not a hobby, Portugal is a plan. Under need, names, not initials. Nouns, not violins. Daylight. Water. I checked our shared calendar because we have always been the kind of married where Thursday dinner is a thing you write down, not a miracle you hope for. There they were, recurring events labeled gym, perfectly spaced at the exact hours the class met. He doesn't go to the gym at night, he listens to podcasts and mock tidies the garage. At the bottom of one gym, there was a discrete map pin invisible unless you clicked. The language school. The browser on my laptop remembered him. It autofilled his email on a travel forum I recognized, the one where people ask how to get an NIF Portuguese tax number without flying over, and strangers with usernames like Custard Tart answer with surprising accuracy. In his downloads, a folder named PT Possibilities. Inside, a spreadsheet titled Lisbon Living, tabs like Small Lies, Budget, Districts, Timeline. In Budget, 2 columns with separate monthly expenses, one that matched our current life and one that didn't, where rent was lower and the grocery line had sardines and vinho verde, not Trader Joe's, and the artisanal yogurt he pretends not to love. In Timeline, bolded dates, language exam, consulate appointment, AIMAMTG has been reading then. And there, in a different color, a note, E arrives 10/14. I am not proud of the thing I did next, but I respect it. I opened his email. We share the family plan for half our life. It felt like retrieving my own furniture from a room he'd locked. Search, apostille, the stamp a Secretary of State gives a birth certificate so another country will take it seriously. Search, international driving permit. Search, SEF, old acronym, but people cling to familiar letters when their heart is sprinting. Every search returned threads, some smelling like curiosity, some like intent. The one that made the world tilt was from a language school. Congratulations on completing A1. See you in A2 with your partner, with 2 first names in the salutation. Mine wasn't one of them. My sister arrived like a storm in a good coat. She hugged me, and the hug did not ask whether I wanted to be brave. She read the pages, the spreadsheet, the downloads with the exact patience of a woman who has no appetite for fantasy. "We're going to ask for nouns," she said. "Before you become a detective in your own house, we're going to ask for nouns." He texted at 5:08 p.m., "Running late, team dinner, don't wait. Love you." I looked at the words team dinner and felt the exquisite professionalism of a lie that has been ironed. I did not reply. I set out 2 mugs. I sliced lemons. If I had to have the kind of conversation that extracts rot from a wall, I wanted tea. He came home at 7:19, the kind of late that wants to be seen as busy, not evasive. He kissed the air near my cheek. He saw my sister. He saw the papers on the counter. His face did the math: surprise, denial, calculation, and then something like relief, which told me he'd been waiting to be caught by something stronger than his own guilt. He sat because the stools were there. Stools become courtrooms when the truth arrives with paperwork. He reached for me and stopped, competent at last. "What is this?" I asked. I didn't say, "What the hell is this?" I wanted a small doorway he had to walk through honestly. "It's a class," he said, and heard his own voice as if he'd never test-driven it. "A plan," he added, choosing the larger noun. "For Portugal." He looked up. "For us. Or for me?" It started as "for me." "Who is E?" my sister asked, voice like a notarized stamp. He opened his mouth and did the thing men do when they're about to choose a softer synonym. He abandoned it, to his credit. "Elena," he said. The name landed like a coffee mug on wood. "From where?" I asked. "The product team at a client," he said fast, like a person who has repeated it to a mirror to make it become true. She went remote last year and moved there temporarily. Lisbon. She loves it." His eyes did a little shine when he said the city, and I wanted to pluck the city out of his mouth and keep it for myself. It is my job to love cities on behalf of people who are brave. "How long?" I asked. "Talking?" "Since spring," he said. "Plans?" "Summer." He looked at the A2 registration, the ink looking smug in our kitchen light. "We took 1 class together on video," he added, and it was almost tender the way he tried to make the ugliest detail sound small. "Are you leaving?" I asked, and I don't mean someday. I mean, did you already pick a month that does not include me? The spreadsheet had a tab named Move with the word October highlighted. He followed my eyes because he knows how I look where it hurts. "I thought," he said, and he couldn't finish, which I appreciated. Sentences without courage should stay quiet. "Call her," my sister said. "On speaker. Say to her the sentence you want to be the record." He looked at me, not at the phone. I moved the mug toward him like a talisman and nodded. He dialed. It rang twice. A woman answered in that evening voice people have when they've made a stew and a plan. "Oi," she said, then laughed. "I mean, hi." He said her name, then mine, and then he said, "I've been building a life in a spreadsheet while my actual life was in the next room. I've been dishonest. I can't do this. I'm stopping." There was a silence. Not the kind that expects performance, the kind that respects gravity. "Okay," she said, voice older than before. I told myself we were becoming something slowly and therefore harmlessly. I like to tell myself clever things. She inhaled. "I won't call. I won't write. I wish you a brave night." She hung up. I respected her for the economy of it, then hated that I had to. He stared at the phone like it was a tool he'd been misusing. "I am sorry," he said, those 3 words ordinary and not enough and necessary. Not because I got caught. Because I became a version of myself who thought he deserved a cinematic chapter without doing the boring work of making the current chapter honest. He looked at me the way people look at their first apartment after a breakup, like it was a witness and a home. "You are sleeping on the couch," I said. "Not as theater. As a firebreak." He nodded. He did not try to make the couch noble. I didn't sleep. I did that thing where you lie there staring at the ceiling fan until the blades turn into sentences you cannot read. At 2:01, I got up and sat at the table we bought secondhand the year we said forever, and I wrote down everything I would need from myself if I were my own client. It was shockingly practical: copies of documents, appointment with a therapist, a call to my mother who believes soup is medicine and boundaries are vitamins, a checklist that would be embarrassing to show a romantic but incredibly useful to a mammal: water, toast, shower, sunlight. In the morning, I called a therapist who once helped a client of mine survive the waiting period between submitting his life to a government and being told whether he would be allowed to stay. She has a fern and a clock and zero appetite for self-mythologizing. "What's the smallest true thing?" she asked. "I love my job and I am good at it," I said, which sounded unrelated until I realized it was the sentence that keeps me from making other people's chaos into my identity. "And a sentence about him that isn't for anyone else," she said. "He likes being new," I said. "He likes imagination beaming onto him like afternoon light. He's bad at telling the truth when he fears being ordinary." We made rules that were humiliating to say out loud and saved my life by noon. No new classes, clubs, or projects with a calendar without telling me before enrollment. No reading big move threads without telling me what you're actually hungry for. If he felt the itch to be someone's beginning, he texted me itch, and then he cleaned the fridge, which is a sacrament where I come from. If I felt the itch to audit him at midnight, my professional disease, I texted my sister clipboard, and she sent me a photo of her baby covered in yogurt with the caption, "You are not the only mess," and told me to go to bed. He found his own therapist, a man who apparently makes him describe the exact moment he chooses an easier lie over a hard truth. He came home and said, "Today I said out loud that I hate who I am in the 30 minutes after I impress someone new. I become hungry instead of grateful." I made tea and nodded without throwing anything, which is personal growth I will invoice later. There were practicalities to unwind. The class was already paid. He wrote a withdrawal email while I watched because I am petty and crave ceremony. He forwarded the refund response to both of us. The second tab in his spreadsheet timeline contained an appointment confirmation for a consulate slot. He cancelled that and sent the cancellation. He sent a final message to Elena, a version of the one he'd said on the phone, written and clean, and then blocked her number. "Not because I want to control you," I said. "Because I want you to control you." He nodded with an adult's shame. A week after the night everything took its real name, I met a client at the cafe near the courthouse to sign her documents. She has waited 3 years for the chance to go home to her mother without risking her life. We read out the names, the dates. She cried the way some people laugh, sudden, honest oxygen. It adjusted my spine. New countries are not plot twists for most of the world, they are surgery. I let that sink into my bones and then into the kitchen later, where I pressed my palm to our counter and said out loud, "I will not let a spreadsheet make me forget who I am." I ran into Elena because the city delights in prompt callbacks. It was in the international aisle at the grocery store. She was choosing olive oil like she believed in the romance of labels. She recognized me in the same second I recognized her, and I braced for theater. There was none. She stepped to the side so I could pass, I paused so she could too. We performed civility with the lightest hands. "Myra," she said, pronouncing it correctly, which made me like her and not want to. "Elena," I said. She looked smaller than the version my fear had cast. "I'm sorry," she said, not performative, not fishing. I told myself I wasn't stealing. That's a story I can no longer afford. I nodded. "I hope you learn to love a place without needing an accomplice," I said. She smiled like a bruise that knows it will be a memory. We both left with the cheaper olive oil. People want an ending you can summarize. I don't have one. I have a practice. He and I made an ordinary romance budget, not flights, not fountains, just the things that make a home that doesn't need a secret country. He moved money into it and didn't give a speech. We used it to buy a lamp I liked. We used it to buy good towels, finally admitting that our skin matters now and not when guests come. On Sundays we walk to the park without phones, and he tells me one true thing about the week that isn't flattering. Last week it was, I looked up apartments in a neighborhood I can't pronounce and I closed the tab because I realized I wanted to be new more than I wanted to be honest. I told him I want to be new too sometimes. Newness is delicious. We could take a class together, Portuguese even. But this time we would enroll in daylight with our full names without the alibi of Jim. Some nights I still wake when the pipes clank and it sounds like train tracks. I picture a red tram climbing a hill, the view making promises it cannot keep. I get up and drink water and stand in our kitchen and say out loud because I believe the body listens, I am not an extra in anyone's relocation fantasy. I am a person with a lease, a job, a sister with eyebrows like weapons, a mother who makes soup like a treaty, and a life that I built on purpose. If I move, it will be because I chose a city in the morning and not because I was chasing a version of a man at night. I kept one thing from the printer sabotage day, the first confirmation page, folded under a paperweight my father gave me shaped like a small brass boat. Sometimes I take it out and look at the date and think about that version of me who believed in the uninspected sanctity of kitchen drawers. I don't pity her. She got us here. Tonight he will get home early because he texted not to ask permission but to announce his intentions. I'm making caldo verde. I watched 3 videos and I accept my fate. I'll come into the smell of potatoes and garlic and a man muttering at collards like they owe him an explanation. We will eat at the table that has become both courtroom and chapel and he will say obrigada, wrong on purpose to make me roll my eyes, and I will correct him and he will let me, and later if the night offers us honesty like a clean glass we will take it. If you are reading this because you found a language class confirmation in your printer tray or a secret appended in your laundry basket, I don't have wisdom so much as procedure. Name things. Ask for nouns. Bring someone with eyebrows. Insist on speakerphone. Cancel what needs canceling, screenshot the cancellation, and put your own name back on your own calendar. Make rules boring enough to work when both of you are tired. Remember that cities are not cures and lies are not visas. Move toward the country of yourself first. Decide who you invite only after the paperwork clears. And if tomorrow the printer coughs again, I hope it gives me grocery coupons or a recipe or a photo of a tram, and I hope I can look at it without my stomach dropping. I hope I print boarding passes someday again with my full chest, maybe to Lisbon, maybe to Lille, maybe to a town I can't pronounce on the first try. If we go, we will go shamelessly, 2 names, 1 plan, both of us carrying the same suitcase that rattles because inside there's a brass boat holding down a sheet of paper that says not enrollment confirmation but we chose this together, stamped by a morning that saw us both.